Nama Buddhaya, the large sutra on perfect wisdom, the Satasahasrika Prajnaparamita Sūtram, the chapter 9, the sign. Object, aspect, and distinction for strong passions. If a Lord, a Bodhisattva who is unskilled in means, courses in perfect wisdom, courses in form, etc., or in any idea about form, etc., being permanent or impermanent, etc., then he courses in a sign, and not in perfect wisdom. If a Bodhisattva who is unskilled in means, coursing in perfect wisdom, thinks that I course in perfect wisdom, then he courses in a basis, then he courses in a sign, and likewise, when it occurs to him that he who courses thus courses in perfect wisdom and develops it, this should be known as a Bodhisattva's lack of skill and means. Shariputra, for what reason should that be known as a Bodhisattva's lack of skill and means? Subhuti, because such a Bodhisattva, when coursing in perfect wisdom, insists on form, etc., perceives it is intent on it, and in consequence he courses in the formative influence of form, etc. I know that he is not released from birth, decay, and death, sorrow, sickness, lamentation, pain, sadness, and despair, that he is not released from the great suffering. And if a Bodhisattva is unable even to realize the level of a disciple or Pratika Buddha, how much less can be known full enlightenment? That is impossible. It is thus that a Bodhisattva who courses in perfect wisdom should be known as unskilled in means. Shariputra, what should be known as his skill in means? Subhuti, a Bodhisattva who courses in perfect wisdom doesn't insist on form, etc., doesn't perceive it, is not intent on it. He doesn't course in form, etc., nor in the sign of a form, etc., nor in the conviction that form, etc., is permanent, etc. And why? For that is the emptiness of form, not that is form. And no other than form is emptiness, no other than emptiness is form, etc. It is that the Bodhisattva should be known as having skill in means. A Bodhisattva who courses thus in perfect wisdom is able to know full enlightenment. Furthermore, Bodhisattva doesn't course in perfect wisdom if he approaches any dharma or does not approach it, or both approaches and doesn't approach it, or neither approaches and does not approach it. Shariputra, for what reason does a Bodhisattva who courses in perfect wisdom not approach any dharma? Subhuti, because the own being of perfect wisdom cannot be apprehended. And why? Because perfect wisdom has non-existence of own being. In this way, a Bodhisattva doesn't approach the idea that I course in perfect wisdom, or the idea that I do not course in it, or I course and I do not course, or I neither course nor do I not course. And why? Because he has approached all dharmas as having non-existence for their own being and has not appropriated them. If the thought of a Bodhisattva who is thus coursing in perfect wisdom doesn't become cowed or stolid, does not tremble, is not frightened or terrified, then it should be known that the Bodhisattva is near to the knowledge of all modes. Object, aspect, and distinction for weak, highest, mundane dharmas. The knowledge of all modes again is not two or divided, on account of all dharmas having coexistence for their own being. This is their concentrated inside of the Bodhisattva, which is called non-genesis of the own being of all dharmas, vast, noble, and fixed on infinitude, to which no disciple or Pratika Buddha can lay claim. When he dwells in this concentrated inside, a Bodhisattva will quickly win full enlightenment. Shariputra, dwelling in which concentrations will a Bodhisattva quickly know full enlightenment? Subhuti gives the list of concentrations mentioned further as at chapter 15 later. Object, aspect, and distinction for medium highest mundane dharmas. The Bodhisattva and his prediction. This Bodhisattva has surely been predicted by the Tathagatas of the past. Also those Tathagatas who just now stand hold and maintain themselves in this world, they also predict the enlightenment of such a Bodhisattva, such a great being. One who dwells in this concentration doesn't, however, review them. He doesn't think with regard to any concentration, I am concentrated, I will enter into a concentration, I have entered into concentration, I am entering into concentration. All these discriminations the Bodhisattva does not get it. Object, aspect, and distinction of strong highest mundane dharmas. Shariputra. Is then a Bodhisattva who has stood in these concentrations predestined to enlightenment by the Tathagatas? Subhuti. No, indeed, Shariputra. And why? Because perfect wisdom is not one thing, concentration another, and the Bodhisattva another. The Bodhisattva is precisely the concentration is precisely the Bodhisattva, and both Bodhisattva and concentrations are identical with perfect wisdom. Shariputra. If concentration is not one thing and the Bodhisattva another, and if the concentration is precisely the Bodhisattva and the Bodhisattva precisely the concentration on account of the sameness of all dharmas, is it then possible to have forth any of these concentrations? Subhuti. Indeed not. Shariputra. Again, does the son of good family perceive any of these concentrations? Subhuti. No, Shariputra. Shariputra. How it is that he does not perceive? Subhuti. Since he doesn't discriminate it. Shariputra. How does he not discriminate it? Subhuti. Because no dharma has existence. It is in this way that a bodhisattva does not perceive any of these concentrations. Shariputra. How it is that he doesn't perceive it? Subhuti. Because of the non-discrimination of any of these concentrations. The connection with their discriminations in general. The Lord. Well said, Subhuti, well said. You, whom I have declared to be the foremost of those who dwell in peace, it is in such a way that a bodhisattva should train in the perfect wisdom, in the perfection of wisdom, and in the other perfections, in the 37 dharmas which act as wings to enlightenment, etc., in the 18 special dharmas of a Buddha. Shariputra. When he trains thus, a bodhisattva trains in perfect wisdom? The Lord. So he does, and that because he doesn't apprehend it as a basis. Shariputra. What does he not apprehend? The Lord. He doesn't apprehend a self or a being, etc. To one who sees the skandhas, the elements, suffering, origination, stopping, the path, the triple word, the unlimited, the trances, the formless attainment, the pillars of mindfulness, etc., to the Buddha dharmas, the extreme winners, etc., to the Buddha, and all that on account of the absolute purity of these dharmas. Shariputra. What then is that purity? The Lord. The unproduced, the unmanifested, the unascertainable, the ineffective, that is called purity. The first discrimination of the object. The chapter on heeds. The discrimination of ignorance. All is ignorance. Shariputra. When he thus trains, which dharmas does a bodhisattva train himself in? The Lord. He doesn't train in any dharma at all. And why? Because these dharmas do not exist in such a way as the foolish common people are wont to suppose. Shariputra. How then do they not exist? The Lord. They do not exist in such a way as the foolish common people are wont to suppose. Shariputra. How then do they exist? The Lord. As they do not exist, so they exist. And therefore, since they do not exist except for ignorance, they are called the result of ignorance. The discrimination of the skandhas, form, etc. Shariputra. For what reason is that which does not exist except for ignorance called the result of ignorance? The Lord. Form, etc. do not exist on account of the 18 kinds of emptiness. The discrimination of settling down in name and form. But foolish people who have settled down in ignorance and craving, they have constructed dharmas out of the ignorance and craving, have settled down in these results of ignorance and craving, have become attached to the two extremes of existence and non-existence, and both extremes they do not know or see. After they have constructed those dharmas which yet do not exist, they have settled down in name and form, etc., to the Buddha dharmas, in the Buddha dharmas. The discrimination of attachment to the two extremes. After they have settled down in dharmas, they construct the two extremes which yet do not exist, and as a result, they neither know nor see. What do they neither know nor see? Form, etc., to Buddha dharmas. For that reason, they come to be styled fools. the discrimination of the non-cognition of defilement and purification. Conditioned by ignorance and craving, they neither know nor see that form is defiled or that form is purified. They will not go forth. Therefrom will they not go forth from the triple world and from the dharmas of a disciple or practical Buddha. The discrimination of their non-establishment in the holy path. They have no faith. What do they have no faith in? In the doctrine that form is empty of form, etc., to that enlightenment is empty of enlightenment. They do not stand firmly. What do they not stand firmly in? In the perfection of given, etc., to in the Buddha dharmas. For these reasons are they called fools. They have settled down. What have they settled down in? In form, etc., to enlightenment. Shariputra. When he trains thus, is a bodhisattva trained in perfect wisdom, and will he go forth to the knowledge of all modes? The Lord. A bodhisattva who trains thus is not trained in perfect wisdom and will not go forth to the knowledge of all modes. Here, Shariputra, bodhisattva unskilled in means constructs the perfection of wisdom and settles down in it. He constructs the other perfections, all dharmas, in the knowledge of all modes. In that case, a bodhisattva is not trained in perfect wisdom and will not go forth to the knowledge of all modes. Shariputra. A bodhisattva who is trained thus is not trained in perfect wisdom and will not go forth to the knowledge of all modes. The Lord. So it is, Shariputra. The discrimination on the basis. Shariputra. How then must a bodhisattva train in perfect wisdom so that as a result he goes forth to the knowledge of all modes? The Lord. When a bodhisattva who courses in perfect wisdom neither apprehends nor reviews perfect wisdom when he thus courses and trains in perfect wisdom, then he will go forth to the knowledge of all modes, in consequence of his non-apprehension. In the same spirit he should course in the other perfections, and he should also neither apprehend or review enlightenment, nor the knowledge of all modes. The discrimination of the self, etc. Shariputra. In consequence of the non-apprehension of what does he achieve this result? The Lord. He doesn't apprehend or review a self on account of its absolute purity, the discrimination of purity in relation to production, etc. And the unproduced, the unmanifested, the unaffected, that is purity. The second discrimination of the object referring to the antidotes, chapter and summits. Concerning the hips as entities, one who is unskilled in means constructs form, etc., to consciousness. Concerning the sense fields as entities, I, etc., to mind, form, etc., to dharmas. Concerning the elements as entities, I element, form element, I consciousness element, etc., to mind element, mind objects element, mind consciousness element. Concerning the links of co-production as entities, from ignorance, etc., to decay and death. Concerning emptiness as an entity, the 18 kinds of emptiness. Concerning the perfections as emptiness, the 6 perfections. Concerning the path of vision, the 37 dharmas which are the wings to enlightenment. Concerning the path of development, the trance of superknowledge's unlimited formless attainments. Concerning the path of the adepts, the 10 powers of a Tathagata, etc., to the knowledge of all modes. The first discrimination of the subject referring to it as a substantial entity, the chapter on passions. Concerning the self as an independent reality. The bodhisattva doesn't get at a self or a being, a soul, a person, a personality, an individual, a man, a youth, one who does, one who knows, one who sees. And why? Because absolutely a self doesn't exist and cannot be apprehended. Concerning the self as a unity, he also doesn't get a form, etc., to consciousness. Concerning the self as a cause, I, etc., to mind, form, etc., to dharmas. Concerning the self as a spectator, I, form and I consciousness, etc. Concerning the self as the receptacle of the defilements, conditioned co-production. Concerning the self as the receptacle of dispassion, the formless attainments. Concerning the self as the receptacle of the path of vision, the holy truths. Concerning the self as the receptacle of the path of development, the 8 deliverances, the attainment of the 9 successive stations. Concerning the self as the foundation of the state of one who has attained the final goal. The 10 powers, etc., to the knowledge of all modes, how does he not get at them? Through their connection with selfhood, and why? On account of the absolute purity of self. This is the end of the 9th chapter of the large Sutra on perfect wisdom, the Satasahasrika Prajnaparamita Sūtram.